everybody, and welcome back to Talking Tower. You know, some people talk shop. Well, hey, we're talking Tower. Tonight, I am joined, of course, by my two co-hosts, Rebecca and Mark. Hello, you two.
Hey, how's it going?
Greetings. All right, we're going to start, as we always do, with our over-under. But before I do that, of course, let's talk about, let's mention what the show actually is going to be. And we are calling this one How to Legacy. Legacy games, a little bit about those, what we think of them, what makes a good one, what makes a bad one, and just some sort of, discussion about that topic. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But before we do that, here we go with our over-under, okay? So, first up, keeping expansion boxes. You bought a new expansion for a game you love, and you've taken those components, and maybe you put them in the base game, maybe you kept them in the expansion. Do you keep the expansion box? Do you get rid of it? What do you do? I'm going to start with Mr. Street.
Oh, man. So it depends on the game. So, like, for Mansions of Madness, I kept all those boxes. But other games, not so much. I'll jam everything into one box. Mostly I'll get an insert, right? So I can organize a game and have all the expansions in one box. But there are certain games that I love the artwork. I actually thought about maybe populating the studio with the different boxes of those expansions just to have some like artwork because they're beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. So there definitely are games that I have trouble getting rid of the box because it looks so good, right?
Okay. What about you, Rebecca?
Well, we used to be that way and collect all of them for a while, and then we realized that we don't have any space. So we started to cull them out, and if we can fit everything into the box, great. We try to do that. Most of them, we can fit the expansion in the box, and like you said, sometimes you have to get the insert, whatever. But we pick whichever box has the prettiest cover, and then we keep that. So if the expansion box is the same size as the original, then like we have... our viticulture is actually in the Tuscany box. Mm-hmm. And because we switched out, we were like, we like that one better. So we just said, you know what, we got to do the hard decisions and we got to get rid of things. So bye, it goes away.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, if an expansion fits in the base game, there's no way I'm keeping that expansion box.
So much space.
I'm getting rid of that box. It doesn't matter how pretty it is. I'm not keeping empty boxes. Yeah. There's just no room for that nonsense,
It's true.
If I wanted to keep the artwork, I could cut the lid off of it and put it on the wall.
Hey, just as a side note, you can use those. Those are great for Christmas presents if you keep your boxes and stuff because they're solid cardboard. We've used those to pack like clothing and stuff in or whatever for Christmas presents. That's great. So you can always repurpose said boxes.
I like that idea a lot, actually.
Yeah, it works pretty well.
We're going to have to do an episode on how to repurpose expansion boxes.
I want to do like a white elephant gift where you have an expansion box, but you put a different game in the box.
Glorious. I love it.
Tricky elephant.
Right.
I dig it.
All right. Next up. There was a new Aladdin trailer that just came out a couple of days ago, and this is technically trailer number 2, but we finally got a glimpse at Will Smith's Genie. And the internet basically lost its mind.
Yes.
Tops of heads were blown off clear across highways.
And all the memes that came along with it, right?
Yes.
Tons of memes.
Memes galore. So I'm curious what you two thought about it, as well as, of course, our viewers. Tell us down in the comments below what you thought. But I'm curious to hear what y'all thought here. I'm going to start with Mark again. I'm going to go to you, Rebecca, in a second. Because I know, Mark, you're a big movie buff. So what did you think?
Yeah, boy. The sad thing about it is that everything around Will Smith looked so amazing. And then Blue Man Group shows up. And you're like, what happened? It was just really kind of sad. And not that Will Smith can't pull off a character, but, we've spent years seeing Genie a certain way, right? Sure. And I feel like they could have just had him voice a 3D version of the cartoon Genie. Would have been much cooler. And then it can morph down into him as Will Smith when he's, like, in human form. So I don't know why.
I think they're kind of doing what you're saying, though. It sure looked like a 3D version of the Genie.
But it's a 3D version of Will Smith as the Genie. It's not... it just looked... it looks so bad because everything around it looks so good. And then I was really disappointed.
And when you described that, it reminded me. Do you remember the movie The Mummy with Brendan Fraser? And then they had the Scorpion King and his face. That's what it reminds me of. I'm like, this looks really cool. And then you look at the face and you're like, oh, what just happened?
Really poor CG. It's like low budget CG almost.
It's weird. Yeah.
And it's weird. Yeah.
It is. And I love Will Smith, but I still have the genie is Robin Williams' baby, and to me it's really hard to see the shift. I mean, it's so much Will Smith, like you said. If it was a little less, maybe until he became human or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
It'll be interesting. But it was the visuals were stunning until you got to Genie. It was like just
I thought all the vistas looked very nice. That was good.
And the Cave of Wonders, right?
Yes,
the Cave of Wonders looked amazing.
Absolutely.
But
then when they got to when they finally got to the Genie part, to actually Will Smith.
Yeah.
And I'm not as concerned about the whole Robin Williams is the Genie thing. That that's crazy. He did a fantastic job with it.
Yeah.
But if someone else is going to do it, they're going to do it. That's fine. Yeah. But the CGI on it just looked so bad. I would not have released that trailer yet. I'm assuming it's not done. That's the only thing I can think.
Oh, I hope you're right.
But it looks incredibly bad and just doughy. And I mean, it was that whole.
Is correct.
That's a great word.
It was that whole thing with Superman's lip in that movie, with like CGI'd his lip out. That's nothing compared to CGI whole thing.
Yeah, right.
It's just like.
And that's a good point. Maybe they did just rush it to get it out, and it's not done. So let's hope for that.
Oh, I hope you're right.
The thing looks like Ellen Ripley in Alien 4 or whatever. She's like, kill me,
Yeah.
That's what that was.
That's exactly
Somebody needs to shoot that genie.
Oh, well. That's
all right, next up. Lego announced kits for adults to help ease anxiety and stress. These are basically sort of fish. They have a koi and a shark, and you take them, you color them in, and then you build this thing, and it kind of articulates. It's a mechanical kit, and again, they're designed specifically for adults. Though they've had sort of sets adults favor before. So I'm curious what y'all thought of this. So what you saw these products? What did you think of it?
Well, for me, I thought it was cool that they're actually trying to market that way now. But I'm going to build a ship from Star Wars instead, probably. When I build Legos. So, but the cool thing though is that this will probably bring in some people that don't find sci-fi interesting or really do need that anxiety relief, because it's in that whole vein of like Rebecca and I were saying. Of the adult coloring books, right? Is what it puts you in mind of. It's that kind of stress relief. And I've always found building those sets to be super stress relief. And it really is something really cathartic about putting those together. I love it. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, cool. I'm with you completely. I think it's an awesome idea. Some people see on the box of Legos, for kids ages, blah, 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 and you think, oh, it's a kid's thing. I really, I shouldn't do that or whatever. And this kind of opens up that world, and it's okay. It's awesome that you want to do this, and it's a great, like you said, it's a fantastic method for stress relief. Why not take advantage of it? It's the same thing like we were talking about with the coloring books, the kids' coloring books and the adult coloring books. It's not like they're adult in the way that we usually think of it. It's just that they want you to know it's okay for a kid to, an adult to do what we commonly call kid things to de-stress. What an awesome way. We need to get back to the simplicity of play. It's good.
Yeah, right. It is good.
So,
what do you think?
That's good. It was definitely, when I saw it, it's clearly inspired by those coloring books that are very much a craze now. And it's an interesting sort of two-step process where you're doing one activity to relax, and then the building it all and having also having a thing, a showpiece, something you can put on your desk at work and look at and maybe mess with, and it'll move the fish. I thought that was a nice concept, something you can maybe do over multiple nights. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You can just color it one night, maybe build it the next, or do it as a cooperative assignment, something to relax together. I thought that was pretty neat. So those are cool. I'm hoping that they explore it further and do different things.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think I'm all behind this. This is pretty cool. So
I hope it really takes off. It's a neat idea.
All right, next up, there was a new revamped version of Time Stories announced. This is called Time Stories Revolution, and it is the same concept, kind of, but it begins a new cycle. It has no core box. It is one in which you're going to still technically be diving into a time jump, but you already start there. Every player has their own deck of cards. They really changed this up. So I'm curious what y'all think. I'm going to start with Rebecca. How did this announcement look to you?
Well, sadly for me, we're kind of done with Time Stories. It's just, for me, it feels like more of the same. So we're not as interested, like, in general. So I'm just not. I mean, maybe if there's a theme that just blows me away that I haven't seen yet, that I might be intrigued enough to try it. But as of right now, I'm like, there's so many other games out there right now I'd rather spend that chunk of time with, sadly. But yeah. So, I mean, for Time Stories fans, I think it's glorious and a great step forward for them. But unfortunately, like, it's not in my wheelhouse anymore. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, because I didn't even make it through all of the current ones.
Yeah.
And before I ran out of steam for it, and I really enjoyed it. I love experiential type gaming, right? I love experiences that come out of gaming, and that is all about that for that game.
Yeah.
But there might be like a cool adventure in the new that I'm like, oh, I need to try that one. That could happen easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. I'm like, oh, another one's out, and I'm like 4 behind now, so I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of the concept that they're trying to bring forth here is that you no longer really need to play them, I think, sequentially.
In an order.
You don't, yeah. That's what I understand.
So I'm definitely over Time Stories. They've really had a few misses, and not even from a play point of view, just sort of from a story point of view.
Yeah.
This idea of we're going to do a cycle of chapters, and they're all going to tell one story. They lost that along the way at some point. For me, anyway. It wasn't cohesive enough for me. So when they now have another stab at this, and they're making it seems a little simpler. They're learning from other games that came along and did similar things. I'm actually excited about them, sort of wiping the slate clean and starting again. Yeah. So I'm actually psyched about it. Obviously, we first have to get through the final chapter in this cycle, which has a really uninspiring theme to me,
Yeah.
So we'll see, and it's supposed to wrap up the story, and I'll believe that one when I see it.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, but I am excited for the new ones. So
cool.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you could just jump in anywhere. I think that adds a lot, because, like I said, if there's a particular story thread that seems really cool, I would definitely try it.
Yeah, you're not slogging through something you're not interested in order to get to the good stuff. So, yeah.
Right, exactly. All right, so let's talk about legacy games, y'all. Legacy, we're going to start off right at the very top in a very academic manner, and Rebecca being the smartest and most academic among us.
Brother.
I agree.
She's gonna kick this off. Rebecca, what's a legacy game?
Well, the legacy game is a board game that you are going to alter in such a way that you will end up with a unique game. You're going to play through it once, maybe more times afterwards, but in the course of that one game, it's a one shot. You're changing it in... my wording is poor tonight, forgive me. But you're doing... I know, I'm on fire tonight, let me tell you. Catch me at the end of the day. But it's a game where you're playing it and you get to change it in unique ways. So there are going to be unique events that happen. You might be tearing up cards or putting stickers on the board, changing maps, changing timelines, changing a history, something that makes your game completely unique from others. So by the time you're done, you have a finished product, a finished game that, while you played technically the same game as other people, it's completely different in the details. I absolutely think it's a very cool, new, unique style of board game that they finally feel like they're starting to take advantage of it more.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat. We're starting to see a variety of these things, because before we had... Pandemic Legacy, right? And that was basically, well, and Brisk Legacy.
Brisk,
I think it was really just those two for the longest time, and we just had those changes, and now we're seeing other games and games that you can reset or recharge or play the game afterwards with the finished product. You know, you have this new map at the end. I love that. It's a really neat, unique experience. But as we're going to talk about, of course, that does mean that the game is never the same, and once you play it, you know about these secrets that you're not replaying it for the first time ever again.
Right.
Okay. So you mentioned secrets, okay?
Okay.
Let's dive into the meat here, what we want to talk about, right? So what makes a good legacy game? A good design, right? None of us are designers, by the way. We're going to be talking about all of this from a consumer point of view. And obviously, we're going to have different things that, to us, make a good legacy game.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's go around the room here and throw things out that we think make a good legacy game. Better than if it did not have this thing, right? Is the idea. And Rebecca,
Gotcha.
you said secrets, and I think that's right there, one of the big ones, right? A game that has secrets. A sense of discovery as you play one session to the next one to the next one.
Yep.
So I agree with you there. What else have we got?
For me, it's just screams tactile, because so many games require you to destroy things or put stickers in things or revamp your character card. It has that tactile escape room-ish feel to it in a legacy game. You know what I mean?
So Jenga Legacy is what you want, Ben, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. It's just the fact that you're altering things, right? Just screams like, wow, this is something unique, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
okay.
So Z, what's one of your favorite little tweaks that legacy games have done? What kind of thing do you like in a legacy game?
I think for me, the thing I like the most in legacy games is the ability to, as a cooperative game, okay, and many of them are, not all of them are cooperative, but many of them are cooperative. The thing I like the most in a legacy game is that it finds a really interesting way to combine telling a story that evolves from one session to another with giving the players a moving target which to hit.
Cool.
It's one of my favorite things. You know, when you play Pandemic, and I love Pandemic, you are hitting usually sort of the same area of that target. Sometimes this thing is being more annoying than usual, and sometimes this thing over here is, not really cropping up its head, so you don't have to worry about it as much. But it's usually sort of the same target. The thing about a legacy game is they're able to, once you get good at hitting the target, moving the target.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, guess what? In this game, you don't have this whole core concept of the game, and there is this new core concept that's now something you need to concern yourself with.
Yeah.
So combining that with a story reason for that to change is, I think, one of the most interesting things about an evolving game. You know, a game in which you put stickers on things, rip up cards, whatever. So that's one of my favorite things. I think that's one of the things that makes a good legacy game. And I honestly also think that a good legacy game seems to be a cooperative game.
Yes, I would fully agree with that. Absolutely.
You know, there's been some that are pretty good, right? Like Charterstone. It's not cooperative.
Yeah.
But it's a good game.
Yeah.
Well,
but it doesn't have that, like, those moments like what Pandemic Legacy had, or you know what I mean? Those, again, the cooperative games seem to have that, like, everybody is like engaged at once for that amazing moment, right? So it makes it more memorable when everyone is involved in that, right? So I think that's a big part of that, why that happens for cooperative versus competitive, maybe.
I'm trying to look, now we haven't finished Rise of Fenris for Scythe yet, but we just started that, but so I don't know enough to say whether that's completely true about the cooperative stuff yet. And you're right, Charterstone had some great little, I like to call them plot twists. You know, you got something going along, and like you said, Z, all of a sudden it's like, what just happened? Now we have to worry about this or something, you know, and take care of this. And it might have been the way that game was designed not to have so many shocking aha moments necessarily as Pandemic did, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, is that a cooperative thing? I don't know. So I feel like the jury's out for me on that one. But they are, you're right, the Pandemic Line had really strong
Oh yeah.
aha plot twists. I really, really enjoyed those.
Right,
So,
right.
ooh,
I don't
good
know.
stuff.
See, I've played Queensdale, most of Queensdale, not all of
Okay.
it, but a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
And I played Charterstone, and I played Seafall. Those are all not cooperative games. And I think none of those are able to give you a really, truly aha massive plot twist. The biggest thing they can pull off is now the king really wants lumber.
Yeah.
Like, all right, So I guess I'll play a game in which in this game session I really like lumber's worth more points.
Yeah.
Those games just so far anyway from what I've seen at no point except by making one player traitor to the rest of them and having the rest of them work together, which they haven't done as far as I know. Right. I mean, none of them have been able to truly give you a thing that makes everyone go, okay, let's rethink this.
Yeah.
So story, I think story is the weakest part of the non-cooperative legacy games.
Gotcha.
They're mechanically, I think they're sound,
Oh, of course.
But there is one thing that, in my opinion, always irks me a little bit about competitive legacy games, and that is that ultimately they all feel like a fairly complicated Euro game that from which pieces were removed and given back to you slowly.
Yes. That's exactly what it feels like.
Okay.
I always feel that way.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like there is no truly good reason why this game began 8 games ago.
Right. And to me, it feels like you're saying that, oh, we're going to teach you how to play a Euro game, so we're going to roll it out slowly.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that. I caught myself thinking that, for example, about halfway through Charterstone.
Yep.
Where we set up a game and we started playing, and I thought, if the game was starting right now, I wouldn't know that there are 6 games I missed.
Yes.
Gotcha.
This feels like a fine Euro game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it gave me like new options, new actions and such.
Yeah.
But they could have been in there from the beginning. Those actions were not driven because of like necessarily things that the turns the story took, if that makes sense, that were truly warranted.
Right.
Now, I could argue, too, with Charterstone, though, in particular. I feel like that one was meant to be more of a beginner-level kind of game anyway, too, as far as legacy games go. Because the instant, like, Hunter and I played it, we were like, ooh, we want to introduce this to the girls. And for a family weight, I think it's cool because it kind of does introduce, like you said, the intro, the Euro mechanism and stuff. So it does add some complications and things, little pieces by pieces, to where if you have somebody that's never played a legacy game before, I think it might be potentially easier to introduce it to them. Yeah. And you could play from start to finish, But I mean, you could argue with a cooperative one too, that everybody's helping each other. I mean, I can see both sides of that. But I feel like as far as like a family thing, for example, for us, I think that our girls will be able to understand how to handle Charterstone better. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's not quite fair to compare them on the same level. I don't know. Sure. What do you think about that? I mean, do you agree with that? Or
I mean, I don't think that legacy is a teaching method. Right. I think legacy is supposed to be a game mechanism,
Yeah,
true. Well, I mean, I guess I said that wrong. I want it to be like, I want to introduce them to a legacy game, and I feel like they'd be able to understand it all the way through. Does that make sense? Like,
sure, but then they should make legacy games for kids.
Yeah.
That's true. I could see that.
Is it good for kids because it teaches them how to play, which then really isn't a legacy game, but it's because it's teaching them instead? That's how it feels to me. And not only Charterstone, but to some degree like Hogwarts Battle, it teaches people how to play deck builders.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
You go from book 1 to book 7 and the game evolves, but it's really just a teaching game from book 1 to book 7.
Is that a legacy game?
I don't know if you could really classify it as a legacy game, but it has that same feel to me that Charterstone did, that it kind of slowly rolls things out until you get to the end, right?
Yeah.
And then at the
Sure.
end, you can just play the end game as many
Yeah,
times as
keep
you want.
doing that over. Cool.
Yeah. So it has that same feel, which again is more of that just that teaching process than Legacy to me. So
I think it's not a legacy game for one very simple reason. Once I'm done playing, my game's no different from yours.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
right.
not a legacy game. I mean, that is the one thing that was the
Yeah, it's unique.
whole concept behind Risk Legacy, right?
Yeah.
This is one Earth of many.
Yep.
And once you're done with the wars, your Earth will be scarred and tainted and defined by your actions.
Yeah.
You can't say that about a game which you can reset back to 1.
Right.
True.
You
Very
know?
true.
So, not a legacy game. If there's no
legacy
card
game. Yeah.
missing, there's no sticker that's permanent on the board,
Right.
then it's just a game you learn slowly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
exactly right. Yep.
That's
That's
true.
how I feel
So-
too. Yep.
You know, that's not to say then, to take that argument back to where we started, that Charterstone isn't a legacy game. It is. It is
No, it
different.
totally is. Yeah.
You know, you are changing it.
Yeah.
You are.
But its reason for being a game that you sort of play slowly, is that enough? And maybe it is. Maybe having buildings and areas that wouldn't normally be there in someone else's copy, maybe that's enough, you know?
Yeah.
But it still feels, I still get that nagging feeling like, man, this is a game that's just teaching me really slowly for
Absolutely.
no story-driven reason, you know. But
Yeah.
anyway, all
Yeah.
right, so
Yep.
let's talk a little bit. I want to ask you a yes or no question before we move on here, okay?
Okay.
Is the story the most important part of a legacy game?
Absolutely for me, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You guys are sheep. I say yes as well. But okay. How important do you think it is for the same group to play a legacy game all the way through? Rebecca, what do you think?
Well, I think, especially if it's something like, for me, Pandemic, something where you said it's got an intense story-driven element, I would say yes. I want to keep the same group throughout. Maybe Charterstone or something, maybe not. But me personally, I prefer to keep the same group throughout the whole time. Because, I mean, you're sharing this one experience. And to me, we usually equate a legacy game to going to the movies. It's more bang for your buck than just going to the movies. And to us, that's our experience. So I want to share that with the same people, if that makes any sense. Because then we can talk about it and discuss the changes and the plots. And if you're trading people in and out, if they're not playing it when a certain thing happens, especially I keep thinking of Pandemic because there's so many shocking things that happen in that one.
Yeah.
That then you have people that are missing out on that, and I just feel like that would be an incomplete experience.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's like someone watching a TV show and they weren't there for one episode, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and then they've got this hole that they're never going to be able to recover, right? So
Sure.
Yeah, 100% for me. You know, we did Pandemic Legacy 1 and 2, and 1 we did the group was the same the whole time. In the second one, the group, we mixed people in and out a little bit, and the experience just felt fragmented in comparison to 1. So I definitely, for me, would prefer to have the same group throughout. Absolutely.
cool.
Right, yeah. You know what I would love to see, and this is kind of going off topic here, but I would love to see a legacy game designed around the concept of purposefully not playing the same copy of the game more than once.
I like that.
You know, like a game in which, you know, let's say it's based in post-apocalyptic nomadic tribes or something, and I play Rebecca's copy for one session. I'm in her clan, I'm in her group, and then I go and play Mark's copy for one session, but I did something to Rebecca's copy to change it.
Yeah.
And then
That's
I did
cool.
something to Mark's copy to change it. And
that
then I
would
leave.
be cool.
And the game is changed by me while I was there. You know, so you're not supposed to play with the same people. You have to play
Right.
with different people.
And what would be even cooler is that the third game you go to, actually you carried over things from the other two to the third game.
Right, you leave something and
Yes.
you take
And you
something.
take
It's like
something?
the change. I'm going to call it the change jar. game.
That would be amazing.
Take a penny, leave a penny.
Love that.
Take a penny, leave a penny. Oh,
Yes, I love this.
that would be a cool concept. I think, honestly, if anybody out there, obviously smarter than I, could develop that game, it would solve the one biggest issue I hear people having with legacy games. Maybe the second biggest. We'll get to the first. The second biggest issue that people have with a legacy game, which is, I can't get a group together to play 20 sessions of this.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that would work. All right. We'll come back to the biggest issue in one second.
Cool.
Should a legacy game be based on a previous concept or game? Do you think that's a requirement?
No, not at all. I mean, I would love to see new directions, and obviously the pandemic stuff has been great. I would love to see that continue, but anything, bring me something new. And again, story-driven, cooperative, I would prefer, but something completely different would be great. Absolutely.
Okay, what do you think, Rebecca?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, they have kind of been, the more successful ones have kind of been based on other games.
I was just going to say that exact thing. I was going to say, well, I think somebody out there is going to be able to pull that off and do a magnificent job of it. As of right now, it looks like the most successful ones are based on something that's familiar to us because they're tweaking it. And everyone that's got this fan base already, you're like, ooh, I really love Pandemic. And then you go and, oh, what a neat twist to something you already love. And I think that people are feeding off of that.
They are.
Yeah, so I would say right now, the
it's
experience.
It's definitely the path, but I would love to see new, fresh, creative content because
I would love
it's
that.
It's just like the whole Star Wars thing, right? The first time you see the lightsaber, it's amazing. But then in the next episodes and movies, you're like, oh yeah, the lightsaber, yay, it's awesome still. But I'm all about, I want something new and fresh, right? So
that's right.
A light dagger, maybe. Some sort of... Okay, here's another question for us. Is it important for a legacy game to be replayable after the legacy part is done?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no, but also with a caveat that if it's a sit down one time and play, that's different. But the fact that
are there any games like that?
No,
you mean like escape room games?
Yeah, right, that kind of thing.
I wouldn't call it a legacy game. It's a one-shot game.
It's not really.
Yeah.
I feel like the reason Pandemic did so well is because you have 20 hours of content basically, right? So.
Sure.
And that's true for video games. You sit down, oh yeah, it was a 20-hour game, and nobody complains about that being a one shot, right? And a lot of people, unless they're playing multiplayer, don't go back to the story.
But it is not a one shot. You could play a video game again.
Could.
True.
You could.
But
you can watch a movie again. You don't have to. I'm not saying people would, but you could watch a movie again. You could play a video game again. You could destroy a jigsaw puzzle and put it together again. You could do that. You cannot do that with many legacy games.
But you could also buy another.
It's not legacy.
But you could buy another version of Pandemic Legacy 1 and play it again. I mean, you could start over.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yes,
I gotta
but
be
you
honest.
don't buy the movie again,
this
right?
Is true.
I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
but you don't.
No,
but is a movie truly legacy? Is a movie legacy?
No, it's...
See, for us, like, what I did with our Pandemic Legacy is I glued a bunch of pieces and made a really cool wall hanging out of our Pandemic Legacy thing. We have no plans to play that again. That was an experience and we're done with it.
Yeah.
So for us, it was a one shot and we just wanted to do something cool to remember it. So, like our Ground Zero has certain things on it and stuff. It looks really cool and I like that and we can look at it and remember everything.
Sure.
The only game that we're going to replay again would be Charterstone because it's got that recharge pack and we're going to play it again with the kids. Play it with different people to go through the experience. But if they don't have that, nah. I mean, how many people, seriously, I'm curious, how many people, and that'd be a good one for the comments, have you replayed a game after you finished a legacy? I don't know anybody that's done that. I mean, have you seen? You have?
No, but I played through it again. As
same.
What Mark was saying, not like finished it, and then the finished copy, I keep playing that.
Okay.
Because at that point, it's like, it really peters out, right? I mean, the thing that made that game neat, it's done.
True.
The thing that, like, you were playing and halfway through, it's like, now open box 4, and you're like, you're never going to have that again. You're just going to play this game, whatever it is,
Yeah.
So...
I actually did play through Legacy 1 twice.
Nice.
Oh, I did
two-
also, yeah. But that's
with-
really different than what we're
With two
talking
different
about.
groups.
But yeah, that's different games. Yeah.
And it did, even though I knew what was upcoming a lot of the time, it did end up being a very different experience because of the outcome and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, but I am curious, again, if these games were replayable, would you keep playing them is what I want to, like Rebecca was saying. Tell us in the comments if you would keep playing your version of the game if they were replayable. Many of them are not, but that seems to be, again, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, the biggest issue people have with legacy games, and that is, I can't keep playing this game. I am destroying it. I am going to, at some point, after I've played 20 times, 18 times, whatever it is, I have to basically frame it on the wall, like Rebecca said they did, or just throw it in the garbage, right? It is done. I personally don't have a problem with that. But I consider it a consumable thing.
Yes.
It's like when you go out and you, go bowling. You consumed 2 hours of bowling for whatever money you paid,
Right.
Exactly.
You're done with it. You don't just get to, now that I went bowling, I can just bowl anytime for free.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. So, even though board games haven't traditionally been this way, I think it's okay. If the amount of money you paid, you feel justified in how much entertainment you're going to get, then it's fine, If you really are, completely interested in continuing to play that game, A, get one that's replayable. There's a couple of them, like Charterstone. Or B, buy another one,
Yeah.
Like you want to go bowling again, you want to go to the movies again, So I don't find that. I know that was a point of contention and kind of a point of pushback.
There was a lot of people who were behind that, like, oh, destroy it. And the thing is that when we played, there was 4 of us. We split the cost 4 ways, and the value based per hour was huge,
right?
Because 10, 12, 15 hours, right? And it really, you can't go out for a movie and dinner for that amount of entertainment. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, when I finished my Pandemic Legacy, I ate it. So it
worked. You were all
talk
set.
about consumable.
It was entertainment and dinner. That's how you do it. Grill it up.
That's right.
But
anyway,
you hit the nail on the head. It's a consumable. You have to think of it as separate from board games because you can't repeat
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah, I agree, and that's sort of a tricky thing to do. But if you find a way to flip that switch in your mind that lets you be okay with maybe playing a game, even if it's not Legacy, 8 times, and think, I'm not really enjoying it anymore. I've consumed enough time and entertainment that I feel like I paid for that entertainment in a good exchange rate. I'm letting this game go. I'm going to put it on the trade pile. I'm going to give it away. I'm going to sell it, whatever.
So
if you are able to do that, then a Legacy game really shouldn't be any different. You know,
I agree.
You're enjoying it.
So let me ask you this. What was your experience like the first time you get to that point in the game and it says, rip up the card? And you had not experienced that in a game yet at this point, and this is the first time. How was that for you? Was there like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I'll just save this instead? What
do you think, Rebecca? How was that?
Honestly, I read the instructions like 5 times to make sure I was ripping up the correct card. Then after that, I was like, yes, I finally get to do this. It was exciting, but I was so paranoid the first time. I was so afraid I was going to tear up the wrong thing.
Sure, right. I mean, it didn't surprise me because I knew what a Legacy game entailed,
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still an interesting thing when it says, okay, this card will never come back into your game and we're going to make sure of it because we want you to rip it up. Now, you could always just, hide that card. You don't have to do it.
That's no fun.
But you can just destroy the card and change the game, and you're writing on it and putting stickers all over it. Ripping up a card is just an extension of that. It's the same thing.
And for me, it was that moment where I'm like, I mean, I knew about it, right? I knew it was coming, but the first time, I'm like, I set up my phone. We're gonna film this. I'm gonna do it in slow motion. It was this amazing moment, right? It was just one of those things. I was all about it.
Right. Yeah, it's a truly different kind of moment, and that's fun. It's something new, and that's I think what's very interesting about legacy games is that they do feel fresh and new. Though I think ultimately, from what I'm seeing, legacy games are kind of following in the footsteps a little bit of deck building games. And that is, this concept of deck building came out, and there are so many deck building games out there now that are still just about deck building. They're not about going to the moon and colonizing the moon and, putting out workers and this and that, and there's a deck building element. No. They're deck building games. That's all there is. Yeah. No one even cares about anything else. It could be about building, colored cubes in space. And it's a deck building game, and that's all that matters. Unfortunately, legacy games are still stuck in that moment, where if a game is legacy, it feels like no other descriptor fits. And I would love to see a game with legacy elements. A game that's a worker placement game. A game that is whatever. A game that's a deck building game. I don't care what kind of game it is. And it can be about anything, right? With that element of legacy. It just seems like the kind of mechanism that cannot help but take over. Yep. And I'm hoping that down the line, once it becomes a little bit more of a familiar concept, that it is incorporated into sort of that bag of tricks that designers have as just another thing. Because right now it's just too different. It's kind of too potent to be just a piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
So we'll see. Anyway, any other points we want to talk about here? I think we're good. I think we covered it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think we covered a lot of the issues and stuff.
All right. So anyway, everybody, let us know in the comments below what you think of legacy games, what you like, what you don't like. How do you feel is a good way to play them? How do you go through your legacy games? Do you like to shotgun the games because you can't wait? Do you like to take your time and enjoy the story? We want to hear your thoughts down below. Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you come back for our next episode. We are going to be talking about how to host a game night. So come back for that. We'll be talking how to prepare, what games to pick, snacks, just sort of how to make the event a welcoming and successful evening. And make sure if you have any questions about that you want to ask me, that you want to pose, maybe things you want me to discuss here, tweet them at me at ZEE_Garcia. You'll see that down there, or maybe up there, or maybe up there. I don't know where it is.
Somewhere.
with the hashtag Talking Tower. So hit me up on there. We'll throw your question in here. And that's it. So go out there and play some legacy games, y'all. Mark, Rebecca, thank you for hanging out in the chat. You've been wonderful.
Yep. Thanks, Z.
You too. It was fun.
Yep. It's awesome.
And I'm Z Garcia. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Like I said, some people talk shop. Hey, we're talking Tower, and we are Ghost. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.